Hey YouTube, welcome to my channel, and hopefully you like this video on, I'm trying to give a little bit more education on what to do if you get a bike like this, in this condition that's decent, so that's not, mistreated, it was taken to the right bike mechanics, and, and I wanted to keep this bike. It's a really beautiful Litespeed obed. Has some amazing parts on there. To my knowledge, this thing's pretty up to snuff. It's not, hasn't been mistreated. There's no cracks. There's no huge dents or scratches or anything. Titanium's one of those materials that pretty much lasts a lifetime. It's kind of hard to need another bike after you have a titanium bike. So let's go ahead and jump into this build. We're gonna start right at the top. Really cool XT brakes right here. The fronts are V brakes. I believe they're just the Shimano really entry-level brakes, but they work really great. The forks, they are RockShox Judy XC fork. They rebound really great. It's Control Tech stem with a Uno bar. I might be changing this bar, but I really don't want to remove these grip shifts. So the reason why I don't is because they work amazingly well and they're not sticky. A lot of times with these older bikes, they're extremely sticky. So that's one thing you have to look out for. Next, you have a really glossy, nice Control Tech stem. All right. So jumping into things that you need to look out for. This headset's loose, it's not out of place. Oh, you could hear a crunching right here. Don't be alarmed. That is one of these cables actually giving out. So after years and years in use, this cable stops, or the rubber on the cable actually gets pulled forward or through the actual inside of the cables, because since this is, I believe, it's a shifter. Yeah, you can see it move. So that's the front shifter, but after years and years of moving back and forth, being pulled, you could just hear it. Sounds like metal's touching the titanium, which is totally fine. We could change that out. It's a zero issue. Or sometimes you could throw some lubricant in there or anything like that just to get that noise from stopping. See here, custom titanium tubing, made in the USA. From my knowledge, these things were all custom built. There's no one-in-one, and this is my second one that I've owned. So the sizing's a little bit different. This is about a 17.5. I typically ride a 19, and that's measuring from the center of the chain ring right here, where it meets the bottom bracket bolt, to the center of the top tube seat post bolt, where it meets the seat tube. That's how I measure my bikes. I know mountain bikes, sometimes they get measured from the very top right here, and they get measured over a stand-up height, because sometimes like dirt jumpers are differently angled, because as you can see here, the seat tube angle is very straight, but sometimes jumper bikes are like very angled forward. I've even seen some forward. So there's a different world of measurements for everything. But in this case, I usually measure from that bottom bracket bolts to the center right there of the top tube where it meets the seat post. But anyways, sad enough, this bike does not fit me, so I might rehome it. Really cool feature about this is these tires are, I believe, original. They're IRC Piranha Pro. They're not even cracked, like they're not dry rotted at all. Like they're very, very supple. Hopefully the camera can get that. So full PS, well, this is about like 40 PSI, but absolutely super supple. Everything bends. It's kind of hard to get on camera. Everything spins well. There is one issue. So if I could find it even. Yeah, Yes, there's a bent spoke in here that's extremely loose. See, yeah, that won't even pass any of the spoke tensioner tests or the tools that Park Tool has. So what I do in this case, I take it to my local bike shop to actually get that replaced and get the rim retrued. I don't mess with spokes. That's what makes, I just don't. I don't have the patience for it, to be honest. And then I like supporting my local bike shops. So it's another thing. What I'm gonna be doing to this bike is I am going to just make it rideable. But I mean rideable, I mean presentable, tighten up the headset, see if I could get another brake line going right here, or maybe even just trim it down a little, just a hair, because as you can see here, there's plenty of clearance to make a full turn with a little bit extra. And out here, it's a little bit slack. There's a little bit of slack there. So that's one thing that I could do. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna be doing. I'm gonna change the seats, even though it's a really high-end seat actually. Well, back in the day it was. San Marcos seats with a Bontrager collaboration. But as you can see, it's really torn, so I'm not gonna keep that. And then that rear spoke. But that's literally it. There's hardly any play. So the way to check play is that you have the bike suspended somehow, and then you shake the edge of the rim and you could feel play in the bearings. In this case, absolutely nothing. Same with the front. Don't have to do any bearing work. You may feel a very small amount of vibration in there, and that's totally fine. But once you start feeling like big jumps, no way. Don't ride the bike. Take it to your bike shop, see what's wrong, or look up a YouTube video on how to replace bearings. In any case, let's go ahead and get started. So the process of what I do when I get a raw frame or raw anything from Marketplace or any secondhand bike is that I go over it with like a rag, and I use like WD-40 or some type of solvent to kind of clean up some of the smaller areas that are pretty dirty. And I use that to kind of see what else I need to do, if there's any scratches or cracks that I didn't see in the initial purchase of the bike or whenever you get it. So that's something I like to do, and it spruces up the bike. It makes it look a little bit nicer. So let's go ahead. As you can see here, it's already doing the world's difference to the frame. And I like to reuse older cloths for doing this process, so go ahead and you could recycle if you'd like. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but maybe you guys could leave the answer down in the comments. I don't know if Litespeed puts a clear coat on their frames. I don't think so. I'm 90% sure that they don't. There's a little clear protector right here, but aside from that, I don't think there's any like frame protectant, because I don't think you really need it for titanium. What I do right here is I like to spray a little bit of WD-40 on some of these adjustment screws, and I like to make sure that all the plastics are nice and hydrated. And what I mean by that is that some plastics that have been sitting out in the sun, which this bike looks like it's been doing forever, get some sort of revitalization, or they get some sort of moisture going. And I find that WD-40 tends to do that. Okay. And if you notice too, I don't spray super hard. I literally just make sure that there's enough WD-40 to kind of coat the area that I need. I'm not a fan of, people spraying WD-40 just blindly everywhere. It's because it doesn't do the bike any good if it gets into some sort of like bearings, because WD-40 is not for bearings. Or any type of bearing or anything like that. It's a basic lubricant, but it's really not for any greased areas. And WD-40, in my opinion, is more of a degreaser than an actual lubricant. So, but hey, I could be wrong. I don't know. Okay. Alrighty, so right here I actually decided that the cable's pretty decent and in great shape on the inside. As you already saw, the cables are pretty new, but I
This is a little hack or a little trick that I do with some of my bikes. I make sure that, you know, the cable's not rusted inside, as you saw there, and I cut off some of those pulled ends with a proper cable cutter. Make sure to get a good bike cable cutting tool, just because it makes your world a whole lot easier. I've had cheap ones and they do not do the trick. But yeah, I decided to reuse the cable here as well. The ends, always tap those in, and yeah, save myself a couple bucks, and the bike lives on with the original Shimano Dior XT cables. So super excited about that.
Oh, are you recording?
Yeah. What time is it?
7:33.
Oh shit, we gotta go. We gotta go. Alrighty, so remember last time how I was explaining that, you know, this bike's in pretty good shape and everything. So there is one thing that, you know, you always find something wrong with these older bikes. I was able to fix the, you know, some of the wiring and use a lot of the old wiring, but I'll just dive into it. All right, so just to demonstrate the issue, I'll go ahead and screw this in. All right, cool. Well, it's not cool, but let's see if I can zoom in. As you can see here, my camera never stopped shaking. The holes for the bottle cage bolts are just spinning. So good thing none of them are stuck, but look, they're like the actual bottom where the little rivet apparatus goes, I guess. I don't know what you call it, but he gets stuck in there. Or it just keeps spinning perpetually, so you can't get a good, you know, tight squeeze on your bottle cages, and I'm pretty sure that would be rattling. And that's honestly probably the reason why I got this bike at a great price. So there's a lot of people out there that have fixes for this, and I'm gonna show you one of them that I found. A lot of big YouTubers have this, so I'm doing this live right now. We'll see how it goes. I went to my local hardware store. I'll show you what I got. I kind of got two. These are like little tools. This is an M5 bolt and an M6 nut with, my camera can adjust. So, as my camera's trying to adjust. With an M6 nut, M5 bolt with a little washer in between, preferably an Allen key. So what the plan is that we're gonna squeeze this a little bit further in there, and this nut is just gonna act like a washer. So the same threading here. The threading is pretty loose, I'm not gonna lie to you. But when I first see, this is the bolt that was on there. So when I first put that on, the threading is still a little loose. So that's a little concerning. So we'll deal with that right now. So yeah, let's go ahead and thread this. By the way, this is at 25 millimeters long. So as you can see, it's not as long as the tube, so it'll stop perfectly before it hits the other side of the tube wall. Keep that in mind when you're buying these bolts. I probably could have accomplished this with like a 20 millimeter or something, you know, a little less. All right, cool. So I hit where it's snug. So, okay, so for the specific bolt that I got, it's a 10 millimeter for the M6 bolt, and I just have this generic, it's pretty cool wrench, Toyota Motor Shop wrench that I just have. And then I have, I believe it's a 3 mil Allen key that fits on the top of this. You could have a 5 mil, whatever, as long as the threads are the same as the bolts right here, and kind of your assembly is the same. So what you want to do is hold this right here and tighten this. So the more it tightens, the actual tighter it's squeezing the bottom right here of this. Here, let me see if I can see it on this. Okay, cool. So yeah, the tighter you squeeze right here, it's actually pinching the collar area or the surrounding where it actually makes in contact with the frame, where this little washer lip meets in contact with the frame. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it some more. And you don't want to put too much pressure into this. And they're starting to become like even, it's starting to even bend to the frame. And go ahead and leave it there. Okay, so now I'm gonna take away this whole assembly. Oh, nope, it's still spinning. So as you can see there, this bottom lip is still spinning. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tighten it some more. Okay. There you go. So see, now I could get a nice tight snug and it stops spinning. Cool. And I'm not talking bad on Litespeed or anything, but these are handmade frames, so who knows what happened, you know, in the building process. Maybe these things weren't clamped down properly. Maybe their tool wasn't working that day. I don't know. So here, and then now, this is the original bolt that was on here. See, the threading's still good, still works. And what I'm gonna do, so get my Allen keys right. I believe, there you go. See, now I could actually get a good snug on there. You can see, even see the wrench. And I could untighten it and they're fixed. Cool. Super cheap fix. I mean, I bought 2 of them just because I didn't want to, you know, lose one or anything like that. But remember, the threading has to be the same. It has to be longer than the original water bottle mount cage bolt. I recommend, you could get 25 mil, but some of these smaller tubes, like the C tube, it's usually like a 27.2 inside or anything like that. So I would recommend folks getting maybe a 20 mil for the C post. I kind of risked it and did a 25 mil because at the same time you have this little spacing right here that saves you probably 3 mils or 4 or 5, whatever. So yeah, super easy fix. I'll go ahead and do the rest of them. Alrighty folks, so one last thing that I did off camera after I pinched those these bolts down, or actually did that process I showed you earlier of kind of squeezing the, you know, the bottle cage nuts in there back into the frame. I put grease. You can see a little bit of it, but so this is actually pretty tightened down, and then see, I could tighten it. Pretty good with one finger. These don't usually require a whole bunch of torque. I don't know why someone torques, whoever would torque these down at such a high amount of Newton meters or whatever you want to call it, or force in general. These things probably require like 5 to 10 maximum for bottle cage mounts. So yeah, just make sure you do that little trick though of having that M5 bolt that's about 20 millimeters long, and then the M6 bolt to have a hold on the top portion so it could actually compress in there. But yeah, this is probably why the owner of this bike pretty much got rid of it, and it got to me because, you know, of A, that spoke, which I intend to take to my bike shop today, and then B, the loose water bottle cage mounts, because that is a bit of a daunting challenge when it comes to bikes, because you don't, like, as someone that doesn't know about bikes, you probably think, oh my gosh, like the frame's loose, or, you know, you could think like, oh, there's gonna be a crack right here. No, these holes were drilled in purposefully by the manufacturer or whoever made this frame in order to withstand pressure of the machine that actually crimps them in there or squishes them in there. Just think of it as like one of those crimping tools that are used for rivets or buttons and stuff like that, like the snap-on buttons. So they designed that for that. So they designed it for a certain amount of pressure. So I was very comfortable with squeezing this. Now I will give a piece of warning, a fair warning to non-bike folks. Do not do this on carbon frames. Take it to your bike shop. Try to get another one installed or get the old ones removed, because I know that the expansion of it can lead to certain cracks in a weaker material, or not a weaker material, but areas that were not designed to take that kind of stress. Titanium, I'm very safe and very comfortable with doing this because A, this is an aluminum little cap right here, or where this crimps in. So the material of where the bottle cage threads in is an aluminum or a weaker metal that's designed to compress. The titanium, it's a lot stronger, it's fine. Feel free to do this gingerly on aluminum frames, but steel frames, feel free to do this trick. But yeah, so, you know, just small things that came off of this bike that, you know, are still being worked on. As I mentioned before, the front shifter shifts great. I might throw a new chain in there. I did do a chain check, and this chain is not stretched out, and I put some of my cheap kind of, or not cheap, but just regular, very average chain lube, and it started working just great. As you can see here, I have not cleaned this rear cog right here, and this is spotless. So, which tells me this bike was never ridden, this chain's solid. I'm a 200-pound guy, I was putting in pressure and riding this thing. And nothing, you know, this chain hasn't given out, so that's why I'm very confident with saying like, okay, this is a great bike. It was hardly ever ridden in its life. The tires, they're from the era. I don't know if they're original. I might get rid of these brakes, so we'll still have yet to see towards the end of this video what I do with that, but yeah, this thing is insanely clean for the era. And again, I need to get rid of that seat, just waiting for parts to come in. All right. Alrighty, folks, so the build is finished. My local shop finally got back to me and replaced that rear spoke that was missing. I forgot which one it was, honestly, but it was bent and the ones around it had lost tension. These are all really nice. They retensioned the whole wheel, so everything's nice and even. One change, I threw in a new chain. I know I said that I might do that. New saddle, so pretty nice physique saddle. Matching control tech stem, seat post. Everything works amazing on this bike. There's nothing wrong with it. These bottle cages I've played with a couple times, and I've unscrewed and re-screwed them back into their place or how much torque they should use. This cable's still doing really good. Just as a reminder, these cables were in really great shape when I got them. This rear brake one is a little rusty, so I might go over it with microfiber, but I put that T9 solution on there just to help lubricate some stuff. Oh yeah, and as you remember, there's a lot of crunching up here. Now there's not, because I cut down on some of the exposed wiring that was touching the wiring ends. But yeah, on the cockpit right here, everything works well. Nothing is all grimy. It came from a very dry environment, this bike. So, you know, not a whole lot of like rubbery stuff to go wrong. But, you know, everything went right. I actually ended up staying with the same brakes. I've just figured that since it's original to the bike, and the brakes actually stop incredibly well after giving a good clean to the rim, stop on a dime. But that's it. Hopefully you guys like this video. I'm not going to do a test ride because it is winter time and it is pretty cold outside. So, you know, I hope you enjoyed this build, and yeah, stay tuned for more builds. And this is the Litespeed Obed.